Okay guys, so this is the second half to completing the square. In the first part of 5.3a, we just did the basic introduction to completing the square. What we're going to do here is we're going to look at what happens when our a value is not equal to 1. So in the previous examples we had something like x squared minus 6x plus 8 was equal to 0. So here our a value was 1 and we didn't really have to worry about it. But what happens when your value for a is not 1, so here it's 3, we're actually going to have to factor it out. So here, after we move our c over, we factor out our coefficient there of 3. And it's also going to change what we add to the right side. So instead of adding b over 2 squared, we're going to add a times b over 2 squared. So in this example, it would actually be 3 times whatever b over 2 squared is. And I'm actually going to go through this in the next example, but you should be aware that what we add to the right hand side will change. So this is the example we were looking at before. So we have 3x squared plus 9x is equal to 12. We've already moved our c over. So before we do our b over a, we're actually going to factor out that 3 like we did before. So we have 3x squared plus 3x is equal to 12. So let's go ahead and find our b over 2. So we now have a new a, do that in another color. We have a new a here, which will be 1, and then our new b is equal to c. Or 3, excuse me, I'm sorry. So when we find our b over 2 squared, we have 3 over 2 squared, which doesn't simplify nicely. So if we want to go ahead and expand that out, we have 3 over 2 times 3 over 2, which is 9 over 4. That's our b over 2 squared right here. Before we add it to each side, we actually have to multiply it by 3 to add it to the right-hand side. We don't have to add it to the left because that 3 is already right here. So here we're going to add our b over 2. And on this side, we're actually going to add 3 times our b over 2, which is 9 over 4. And then over here on the left-hand side, it's still 3 over 2. Okay, we don't have to do anything there. So now we're going to go ahead and simplify this. So 12 plus 3 times 9 is 27 over 4. And if we want to go ahead and simplify that even further, you could always plug it into your calculator, or you know, this would become, you have to have a common denominator, so it would be over 4, and then 4 times 12 is 48, which is eventually going to become 75 over 4. Okay, so that's what we have on the right hand side, and we'll come back over here and look at the left hand side. So we follow our same basic skeleton. Okay, so we have 3, and then it's still going to be x plus 3 over 2 squared. So this follows the same skeleton as before when we go to the factor form. So I'm just going to bring it down here. 3x plus 3 over 2 squared. So now before we solve this, we have to get rid of that 3 there. So we're going to divide each side by 3. Remember, this is your keep, change, flip. You can plug it into your calculator, whatever you need to do to simplify that. Now we have x plus 3 over 2 quantity squared is equal to 75 over 12. Okay, and now to solve, we just take the square root of both sides. This cancels with that. So we're left with x plus 3 over 2 is equal to the square root of 75 over 12. And then you can go ahead and reduce that. I'm going to come over here. So we have x plus 3 over 2, and then we can reduce 75 over 12. We can divide each one by 4. No, I lie, by 3. Right, so we're going to divide 75 by 3. Let me do that in another color, just to simplify this. So that's going to give us the square root of 25 over 4. And I'm just going to keep simplifying this right hand side. Remember, we can split this up like this, which gives us two nice perfect squares here. Remember, the square root of 25 is 5, the square root of 4 is 2, and this is plus or minus. So now we can go ahead and finish solving this. So minus 3 over 2, minus 3 over 2, x is equal to negative 3 over 2 plus or minus 5 over 2. We're not done yet. I want you to go ahead and do both sides here. So you have negative 3 over 2 plus 5 over 2, which is equal to 2 over 2, which is 1. Okay, so that x is equal to 1 over here. And then if we do the negative side, we have negative 3 over 2 minus 5 over 2. So negative 3 minus 5 gives you negative 8. Over 2. Negative 8 divided by 2 is negative 4. Okay, so then we have our x values over here. So the solution to this system, I'm sorry, it's not a system, the solution to this quadratic equation is x equals 1 and negative 4. Okay, tedious, a lot of work, but you'll get the hang of it. Here is the final example for this section. If you feel that you understand it, on the next slide, if you want to fast forward through it, is the list of Khan Academy homeworks. You can always look on the website as well, or you've probably been assigned them by now if you want to get started on it. So here what we're going to do is move our value for c over, so plus 10. I'm going to move over here to the left. So we have negative 5x squared plus 25x is equal to positive 10. So because our value for a here is not equal to 1, we actually are going to have to factor it out. It is negative, so I want you guys to keep track of that because it's going to change your signs. So if we take out the negative 5 here, we're left with x squared now minus 5x is equal to 10. So now let's go ahead and find our b over 2 squared. Our value for a is now 1 and b is negative 5. So we have negative 5 over 2 quantity squared. That's not going to simplify, so you're going to need to expand it out. So you have negative 5 over 2 times negative 5 over 2, which is going to give you positive 25 over 4. That's not going to simplify, so we're just going to leave it as a fraction. So let's go ahead and add it to both sides. Remember, on the left, you're just adding b over 2. Here it's going to be minus 5 over 2. And on the right-hand side, we are going to have to multiply by our value of a. So we actually have we have negative 5 times 25 over 4. So let's go ahead and simplify this right-hand side. So we have 10, it's going to be minus 125 over 4. On the left-hand side over here, I'm going to go ahead and break it up into our factored form already. so that we have x minus 5 over 2 quantity squared is equal to 10 minus 125 over 4. So we'll keep simplifying. So 10 minus 125 over 4 is going to give you negative 85 over 4. If you're confused, just plug it in a calculator, or you can solve it longhand. Okay. From here, we need to divide by negative 5 on both sides. I'm going to move up here. So now we have x minus 5 over 2 quantity squared is equal to positive 85 over 20. Now to solve, we're going to take the square root of both sides. We know that the left-hand side will cancel. We're left with x minus 5 over 2 is equal to the square root. And I'm going to simplify this 85 over 20. I'm going to divide both of them by 5. Okay, so I'm going to divide that by 5 and that by 5, which is going to give me 17 over 4. And here you can either simplify the square root first, or you can move the x over. I'm going to go ahead and simplify it now. Remember, we can separate this into the square root of 17 over the square root of 4, which is 2. So we now have x minus 5 over 2 is equal to plus or minus the square root of 17 over 2. So we're going to add 5 over 2 to both sides. Let's come up here. Sorry, this is so sloppy, guys. So now we have x is equal to 5 over 2 plus or minus the square root of 17 over 2, which we can actually add here. They both have common denominators. So we have the positive side, which is 5. It'll be plus the square root of 17 over 2 and 5 minus the square root of 17 over 2. Okay, so these are going to be your answers here. You can also give it to me x is equal to 5 plus or minus the square root of 17 over 2. Okay, so either or is fine. I'll take both of them up. If you have any questions, shoot me an email, ask me in class, send me a message via Remind. Go ahead and get started on the homework, and I'll see you in class.